federal government continues to put that future generation in jeopardy by making promises that it can't keep. It knows it can't keep. It's got a spending problem, and our continued failure to address this problem is what's putting the future in jeopardy. And it starts with economic growth. This president, this administration cannot run on a record of pro-economic growth, and so you're going to see them resort to the politics of envy and division. Just recently, you heard the president say, what? That the private sector is doing just fine. Now, I don't know what you folks think, but the people that I talk to all up and down the 6th District of Ohio tell me right the opposite. And it shows how disconnected this president is with what's happening with the American people down at the working level. 88.5 million people that have left the workforce that are no longer looking for a job. Unemployment at 8.2%, the last jobs figures going in the opposite direction. It came down to 8.1, went right back up to 8.2, but 8.2 is not even the real unemployment rate. If you factor in those 88.5 million people that are no longer looking for a job and have left the workforce, the unemployment rate is really upwards of 15%. There are still a lot of people that are struggling to make ends meet. And that's why we have these discussions about job creation. And I do this all over the district, all up and down, from Youngstown to just outside of Portsmouth. We have these types of discussions because it's important to me to hear back from not only those of you who are looking for jobs, but those of you who are job creators about what your impediments are. Now, we know what some of the impediments are. Some of the impediments are the debt. Businesses can't get access to capital. They're struggling to find capital to grow and expand their businesses. Other businesses, 40% of America's businesses, are telling us that the reason that they can't grow and expand their business is because of the president's health care law. The president promised us that that law was going to create jobs. It hasn't created jobs. It's made it more difficult for small businesses to grow and expand and create jobs. And why is that? Because they're seeing an increase in the cost to provide their employees health care coverage. The president promised that it was going to reduce health care costs. And now CBO tells us that it's going to cost $2 trillion more over 10 years, over the life cycle rather, than what we thought it was going to cost. He promised us we could keep our own doctor. And that's not even true. Because we've got 1 in 3 health care providers that are saying, I can't get any more Medicare patients. We've cut in that health care law. The president's health care law cut $500 billion out of Medicare to pay the bill. $200 billion of that came out of Medicare Advantage that affected about 36,000 people that live right here along the Ohio River. Those are the kinds of things that we're facing. Not to mention onerous overregulation, the EPA, the Department of the Interior, going after our energy sources. 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks ago, the Vice President came to visit Ohio. Came to Martins Ferry and Steubenville, started out in Youngstown, talking about the resurgence in manufacturing. Now, look at the dichotomy in that. We've got a resurgence in manufacturing here in Ohio. Why? It's not because of the president's policies, it's in spite of the president's policies. It's because of the surge in the oil and gas industry that's going on private lands with private investment dollars, not with government stimulus and bailouts. Because if you look at what the administration did last year alone, drilling on federal lands decreased by 11%. But they talk about this resurgence in manufacturing at the very same time that the Environmental Protection Agency is attacking the energy sources that will support a resurgence in manufacturing. Some of you are business people in here, and you know that energy is one of the biggest parts of your operating budget in running a manufacturing facility. And when we can't get access to cost-affordable, reliable energy, how are we going to run manufacturing plants? We've seen coal-fired power plants shut down. The president said before he took office, before he even ran, that his policies would make it economically infeasible, impossible to start up a new coal-fired power plant. In 2007, the vice president said that coal is more dangerous than high-fructose corn syrup and terrorists. That's the kind of logic that we're dealing with in Washington. And it's destroying our ability to provide our own energy. Americans are seeing $300 on the average more to power their homes in a year. We're seeing double at the gas pumps. How many of you have filled up your gas tank in the last 2 days and seen the increase in gas prices again? Yeah. As long as we stay beholden to foreign sources for our energy, that's what's going to happen. And the energy sector is what offers us the opportunity to see American exceptionalism and the American dream come back into play. Unlike we have seen since the early 60s. How many of you remember John Kennedy's vision to put us on the moon in 10 years? Some of you have heard me talk about this. We didn't make it in 10 years. You know how long it took us?
3.5 years.
7. Not 3.5, but 7. But still 3.5, almost 3.5 years shorter than what he thought it was going to. And the reason that it took us only 7 years is because he engaged every sector of our society. Our industrial base, our economic will, our political will, our scientific community, our academic community, our military. We had young people lined up to get into academic programs that would prepare them for careers in space exploration. We saw industries crop up overnight. Some of those industries created technology that, believe it or not, because now the president has sort of stood down our space program, they're applying their technologies to the energy sector. Now that's a different discussion, and we can talk about some of those, but that's the kind of innovation that came out of that era. And we saw millions of jobs created. Think about what would happen if we had a real energy policy that was an all-the-above energy policy. One that said, we're going after the 3 trillion barrels of oil that we already own. We're going to harvest the vast volumes of natural gas and oil that we own, and most experts feel that here along the Ohio River, we're sitting on top of the world's largest volume of natural gas and oil in the Marcellus and the Utica Shale. We're going to go after coal and continue to mine and use coal because it's the most cost-effective, affordable, and most reliable form of energy on the planet. And in the state of Ohio, we get 87% of our energy from coal. The nation gets about 40% of its energy from coal. We're even going to expand our nuclear footprint because we're going to see manufacturing come back to America. And we'll be able to enclose a nuclear reactor with steel that's manufactured right here at home. And we're even going to look at wind and solar. They can't solve our energy problems. They can't meet all of our energy needs, but there are niche markets where they can fit in.